This week's Parashat Hukat, we have the sin of Moshe Rabbeinu and the rock. Now, what exactly was Moshe Rabbeinu's sin? It's not clear. The Rishonim argue on this. There's so little actually written in the Psukim, so everyone tries to pick up on one little side of it. So, B'ezrat Hashem, we're going to try to speak about the sin from one particular angle. But first, I want to take us back to a Rashi in Bereshit that kind of tells us that this sin was already foreshadowed much earlier on. If you go back to Parashat Vayera, Avraham Avinu is right after the Brit Milah, is hanging out outside, Kechom Hayom, in the heat of the sun. He's hanging out there, and these three people come. These three guests come to his tent. They're really angels, but he doesn't realize at the time. And he sees them, and he offers them food. He offers them water, and the pasuk there says, "Yukachna me'at mayim." He tells them, "Let some water be brought to you, and then you can wash your feet, and you can hang out under this tree." Says Rashi, "Yukachna al yedei shaliach." The water itself was brought through a shaliach, meaning Avraham himself didn't bring the water. He had a shaliach bring the water. The HaKadosh Baruch Hu shilem levanav, and the Holy One, blessed be He, repaid His children al yedei shaliach. And God in the future would repay us with al yedei shaliach and give us a zechut al yedei shaliach. Shnei emar, vayarem Moshe yado vayachet hasela. As it says in the pasuk by us, that Moshe raised his hand and struck the rock, meaning that Hashem didn't do the miracle directly. He did it through a shaliach. He did it through Moshe Rabbeinu, which is the hitting of the rock by us. Okay. So Rashi is actually quoting a Gemara in Baba Metzia, the Pei Vav Amud Bet. So it says over there, Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav. Says Rav Yehuda, the name of Rav, Kol ma she'asa Avraham lemalachei hasharet be'atzmo, asa HaKadosh Baruch Hu lebanav be'atzmo. Everything that Avraham did himself for the angels, Hashem would repay his kids, meaning the Jewish people in the desert, directly. And whatever Avraham, whatever chesed he did through a shaliach, Hashem would give to his children through a shaliach. So, for example, it says "Ve'ela bakaratz Avraham." It says that Avraham ran to bring the meat. So then it says by us in the desert, "Veruach nasa et Hashem," and Hashem brought a wind, and that's going to bring the quail. Then it says "Veikach chema v'chalav," and Avraham went and brought the chema and the milk. And it says later on in the desert, "Hineni mamtir lachem lechem min hashamayim." I'm going to bring you man from the heaven, bread from the heaven. So we see that everything that Avraham did himself, we have ourselves a zechut from Hashem. It's going to come down directly to us. But when it comes to the water, Avraham did the water. Yukach is a language of passive, so meaning let the water be fetched. So yukachna me'at mayim, that was al yedei shaliach. So therefore, when it comes to getting the water in the desert, we're going to have Moshe be the shaliach. Now, interesting, the Gemara quotes, not the Rashi quotes a different pasuk than the Gemara. The Gemara quotes the pasuk Vayikita Batzur. It quotes the pasuk of Moshe hitting the rock at the beginning in Shemot, for the first time the water story happened when we left Egypt. Not the story in our parsha that takes place 40 years later with the new generation when Moshe sins. So so Rashi quotes our pasuk, which is interesting. But I think what Rashi's hinting at is something much deeper. That if not, so everything that Avraham did himself, so then Hashem does a big miracle. If Avraham would have done the Mayim thing himself, then Moshe wouldn't have been required to bring the water to the Jewish people, and the sin would have never happened. There never would have been this issue. Now, there's an interesting Rav Moshe Feinstein. Rav Moshe Feinstein writes some nice chinuch ideas. See, Rav Moshe Feinstein writes, wait a second, Avraham didn't bring the water, why not? Who's the shaliach that Avraham sent to get the water? So Rav Moshe looks at some other psukim, some other Rashis, he says, oh, it must have been that Na'ar that's helping along the way. It must be Ishmael. That Avraham had sent Ishmael to go and help. Why? For chinuch. You have to educate your kids. How do you educate your kids? You tell them, you teach them to do mitzvahs. So says Rav Moshe, he says, I don't understand. If Avraham's having Ishmael do this mitzvah right now, so then why is he's losing out? He says if Avram would have done it himself, Hashem would have made the miracle of the water by himself. But that's not what's going on over here. Avram's teaching his kid how to do mitzvahs. And it's interesting because there's a lot of rabbis say that when a guy goes around the shul trying to collect money tzedakah, so you give your kid a couple coins to go give tzedakah. So you're teaching them how to give tzedakah and become used to giving money and giving tzedakah. So you always see little kids in shul putting money in because you want to teach your kids chinuch. So here also, Avram is doing chinuch to Yishmael to teach him how to be a good person, how to do chesed. Says Rav Moshe, though, a deep idea. He says, Well, it's true that that's chinuch, but ultimately, if Avram would have done it himself, Yishmael would have learned from the example of his father. That's even greater chinuch. To be a self-example for your kids, to show yourself, show them what exactly through you doing it, that's the greatest thing that a parent could actually do, and therefore Avraham should have done it himself. Okay, we see there's this idea that feeding people, feeding orchim, it's like a big deal in the Torah when it comes to chesed, when it comes to helping people, maybe when it comes to leading people. It's funny at Israel XP over here at Bar Ilan. So whenever we're like hiring madrichim and madrichot, so I always explain to them that there's different ways that you can run a Shabbaton. When we have an in Shabbaton, he says there's a lot of programs that do what's called Toranut, where every floor of students, today is your day, today is floor one, that gets rid of the dishes, tomorrow floor 2, and everybody plays their role, and it's a good way to teach independence, and it's very good stuff. He says at Israel XP, though, I always tell them that's not what we do. By us, the staff feeds the students. We do Chabad style, where we're putting the food in their mouths, we're taking care of everything, heating up the food, you name it, we're cleaning up afterwards, we're doing the A to Z. And a little bit like what is happening over here with Avraham, and most of the stuff that he's doing for the angels, and maybe from the Gemara, maybe should have done even more should have happened. But different approaches, and it happens to be what I'm noticing is a little bit of a machloket when it comes to chinuch of kids. How much do you have your kids do it? How much do you do it yourself to be that self-example? But here, at least from Rav Moshe, and from the story of the water, it seems to be connected. But then I was thinking even more. If you look at our parasha, so the commentators try to figure out where did Moshe go wrong with hitting the rock. So some people focus on the beginning of God's command, that God said, "Speak to the rock," and what does Moshe do? He hits the rock, and that's the famous approach of Rashi. But then I noticed something different. The pasuk says as follows: God tells Moshe, "V'ishkita et ha'edah et be'iram." God says to Moshe Rabbeinu, "Go and water the people. Give the people and give their animals and give them water." And it says it in the language of V'ishkita. Do it directly yourself. But when it actually takes place, the pasuk says, "Vateshta ha'edah u'v'iram." It says that after Moshe hit the water, the Edah themselves came and they drank themselves. I mean, the people drank themselves. It's not Moshe actively giving them, but if Moshe just, here's the water, go take it yourself. And then I saw a commentator say that maybe there was a little bit of a lack of leadership here, especially when Hashem is saying to give it yourself. But then I was thinking, this is probably the bigger idea that Rashi was hinting to, that the Gemara was hinting to, of Ma'aseh Avot Siman Labanim. Moshe is actually following in the exact same derech of Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu, when it came to the water, didn't go all the way, didn't give it to the angels directly. So now Hashem does it through a shaliach, through Moshe. But Moshe, just like Avraham, doesn't give it to them directly. And maybe that was the sin. Shabbat Shalom.